Hello, welcome back to JJ's Bakehouse. So today I'm going to be making a chocolate cake for you. So it's my mixture between a fudge cake and a chocolate cake. The reason I've got that slight difference is I'm going to be using Ganache for this, but I'm going to mix my Ganache with my buttercream so that sometimes with Ganache it can go quite hard, but this way you'll still get that silky mousse-like texture from the buttercream, but that lovely flavour from the Ganache. So we're going to begin with the cake and let's get going. Right, let's pop that on there. So to start with, I'm going to mix all my dry ingredients together and then add the wet to them. So if you don't want to take a note of these ingredients as I'm going, I will put them in I will put them in the description box underneath so that you can go back to them at reference. So I have got here 350 grams of self-raising flour along with 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate soda. I've got 110 grams of cocoa powder going into that there as well as 300 grams of caster sugar and 200 grams of light brown sugar. Lots of sugar. And I'm just going to give those a mix around so they're all really nicely incorporated. Because they're dry, I'm just going to pop that over the top. Do that on the slowest speed that you've got. I've got a cream and paddle, so I don't need to worry about what's happening on the bottom of the bowl there. It's looking after itself. But if you haven't, you might want to do this by hand or stop it and just make sure that you scrape around the bottom of the bowl. You want to make sure everything is fully incorporated. And it is lovely. Right, as well as it did splash everywhere a little bit. So this is really, really quick and simple. So we're just going to add all those wet ingredients in there now. So I have got 250 grams of previously boiled water. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I've got 200 grams of vegetable oil or flavourless oil, as well as 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, because I like that, brings out the flavour of the chocolate. 4 eggs. And then I've got buttermilk here, and I need 4 tablespoons of buttermilk. Now I make this myself, as I've said before, so I have just poured in to here some milk and then added, this one here is a cup of milk, and I added about a tablespoon of lemon juice to that, left it on the side, and it's done that curdledy thing, which is what we need. So I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of this to my mixture. In with my dry ingredients, I did add a pinch of salt. That's up to you, that's optional, you don't have to add that if you don't want to. So we're just going to let this go round and on the lowest speed and let that fully incorporate, not for long. We don't ever want to work the cake batters for too long. We just want to make sure that it is completely incorporated. And it is, and that's it. That is done. So I'm just going to get my tins out and I'll be straight back to you. Then I've got 3 8-inch tins just there. So let's just wipe this down. Brilliant. Take that off. Right. I'm just going to make sure that I give this a last scrape round, folding in just to make sure that everything is completely incorporated. So I'll show you my mixture. There we go. Looks absolutely lovely there. Smells gorgeous. Right. Now you can measure these if you wish to put them in, but I'm quite happy just to free pour mine. Now it depends on, you could do 2 of these and have really thick layers, but I don't want really thick layers for this, so I've gone a bit thinner. So really it all depends on whether you want 2 or 3 layers for your fudge cake. Just trying to make sure that everything is around about the same height. Then we're going to pop this into the oven. I've preheated my oven to 140 degrees. I've got a fan assisted oven. If you haven't got a fan assisted oven, do 150. And we're going to put this in for around about, it's going to take between 30 and 35 minutes, I'd say. So I'm going to check mine after 30 minutes. Now my layers are quite thin, so around about, I might check about 27 minutes just to see. But I'll let you know exactly how long mine took as soon as I get them out of the oven, so I'll see you shortly. Okay, my cakes come out of the oven. They're really, really nice. Now that took 25 minutes for mine, so for the 3 tins with this in the oven it will take 25 minutes. Depending on your oven, maybe 27, it all just depends on your oven. The reason I wasn't overly sure is just the thickness of what I was making my sponges. Sometimes I go a little bit thicker than that and it takes a little bit longer, but with those you're looking at 25 minutes. So now we're going to get on with this lovely buttercreamy ganache mousse for the middle of the cake. So we're going to start, as I always do, with just a regular chocolate buttercream. Now what I've done is really cold weather at the moment, so when I put in my room temperature butter, which is struggling anyway, which is quite cold out on the side, I have given it a little blast in the microwave for 20 seconds just to make it so that I can get an indentation on there, or I'm not going to get that properly whipped up butter. But when I took my cakes out of the oven, I put my bowl into the oven as well. The reason I've done that is because when it's cold outside and in the kitchen or whatever, if it's not warm, this is going to be cold on the outside, and the minute that you put your butter in, it sticks to the side of the bowl and it stops and it kind of solidifies that butter back up again. So this way, I don't want it hot, but it's just so that you can feel a temperature to the side of the bowl so that it's not just going to stick to the side. See, when I put it on there, it doesn't stick, but it's not so hot that it's melting. So I can feel a temperature on the side there, but it's not freezing cold. That's really important with buttercream. So we're going to do our usual. We're going to turn this on a medium to high speed and let that go for around about 5 to 7 minutes until it's really lovely and white and fluffy. So I will see you in a moment. Right then. Here we go. So my buttercream now looks like this. So it is so light and airy, and a lovely colour there as well, and that's what you're looking for, and that is really the best way to get buttercream. If your butter doesn't do this, it's not going to dissolve the icing, the sugar properly, and that's where you're going to get graininess. So this is where you're going to get lovely white buttercream. Now I could go a little bit more if I was going to be doing a white buttercream, but that is so light and fluffy, I'm happy enough with that, and this is going to have chocolate in it anyway. Right, so now it's time for me to start to add the icing sugar. So I'm just going to add this, as I usually do, in 3 stages. So first of all, I put the third in. Make sure that your icing sugar is completely sieved in. It must be, because you don't want any lumps in there. We really hate to have grainy buttercream. So I'm going to put that on, and if you're not looking in the description box, sorry, I used 230 grams of butter and 500 grams of icing sugar here. So we're just going to put this on. Make sure that you cover yourself over. There we go. Just until it's incorporated. Save it from splashing right back at you there. Lovely, and then we're just going to let that incorporate. We don't need to be going for ages and ages with the mixer now, because we've put so much air into it beforehand. Right, so that has combined. So now I'm going to add my second lot. tea towel. Now a good way of knowing whether your butter was soft and fluffy enough is that your mixer should be able to mix all of this up without adding any fluid to it. And it might be stiff, but it should be able to mix it. If you're getting to that final stage with the icing sugar and you're not able to keep mixing without adding any kind of fluid, then your butter wasn't soft enough and fluffy enough to begin with. Right, so it is getting stiffer, you can feel it. So last lot in, got it all. There we go. And there we are. Oh, nearly turned it on without the tea towel. Right, and as I said then, it will be stiff, but it should be able to handle this. I'm not, obviously, again, I'm not stopping and scraping down because of that creaming paddle, but if you haven't got a creaming paddle, make sure that you do stop and scrape down. Lovely. Right, so I'm going to show you mine. Oh, let's just take this off. Sure we're all covered around the outside. That's all in. Okay, so as much as it's thick, it has all completely combined in there, and you can still move it away. It's not really hard. So that's the way we want it. For the amount of icing sugar that we've added with the butter, this is the consistency that you would expect now in these final stages. So then we would normally go on to add in quite a bit of fluid. I'm going to put the vanilla in first. Now I'm going to add what I would say is half a teaspoon to that there. And then I've got cocoa powder to add in a moment, but I'm just going to mix that through. See, that mixer is still working through that butter fine. Right, and then you need to add some kind of liquid of your choice. Now we don't want to take this down too much because we are adding the ganache to it as well. But you can add milk, you can add cream, you can add condensed milk, or you can just add water. Now I tend to use previously boiled water that's cooled. I find it just as good. And also I don't need to add any other dairy products into this because I am going to be adding the ganache in. It's going to give it that silky smooth anyway. So get yourself some previously boiled water, or whichever you prefer to put into this, and we will add that in a moment. Okay then, so now I've got some previously boiled water. Oh. Right, I'm just going to add 1 tablespoon into this because it really doesn't need much more than that at this minute. You don't want to add too much before the final product is completely done, because otherwise you're going to end up with a soup if you add too much. So that's handling that really well. Now I've also got some cocoa powder here. So I really want this to be really chocolatey. If you're going to go for it, you may as well do it properly. So let's just give this a scrape round. You may start getting where it's sticking to the sides. Again, now my bowl's gone cold, so we'll just try and combat that as we're going. Right. Lovely. So I've got 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder in here. I'm going to add half of this to my mixture, and then just give that a whirl around. That tablespoon of water is going to have helped at this point to be able to mix this up. As you can see there, it's thick, there we go, but it has managed to take on and all mix up lovely in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add this ganache. Now how I made this ganache, I put 150 mils of cream into the microwave in a jug on its own and brought that to the boil. You can either do that in the microwave or you can do it on the stove. So 150 mils of the double cream, and then I added 200 grams of milk chocolate to that. Now I use the chocolate drops, but it doesn't matter. So I added that to it, dropped it in, left it for about 30 seconds so that the heat of the cream there started to break that chocolate down before I touched it. So you start moving it around, you haven't given it a chance, and then just mixed it. So if you were using chunks of chocolate, not the chips, like chocolate chips of chocolate, then it's going to take a lot longer to melt those big thick cubes. So you might need to pop that back into the microwave, but only put them back into the microwave in 10-second bursts because you don't want to take it too far. So then I've left it on the side to cool, and this is what I have. Lovely ganache there. Now if you want to make ganache in advance, brilliant, but if you don't and you want to do it in a hurry, then make up your ganache, put it into the microwave, do all of it, melt it all together, get it to your consistency. It will be thinner than this, just because it's hot. And then if you put it into the fridge, it starts, you're not there to mix it and look after it, so it doesn't really go nicely, is the best way I can describe that. So what I tend to do is put it into an ice bath if you need it really quickly, and it's next to you, and you can just keep stirring it. So get yourself a bowl, lots of ice, lots of water, pop your jug into the middle, and then just keep stirring it around, and that will bring your ganache right down to the correct temperature to be able to use really, really quickly under a controlled way that you can keep stirring it so that it's not getting very cold and setting around the outside, and then in the middle it's not, and you stir it and you get lumps. So that's not what you want. So anyway, so here we are. I am now going to pour this into my buttercream. Okay. Lovely. Right. And then just let that mix up. And this is the reason why I've not added too much liquid to this, because this is quite wet and you don't want a soupy mess. So this is coming through lovely. We've got the last of the cocoa powder here to add as well. So just as that's going around, add the last of that cocoa powder, and that's just a little bit more dry, just to really solidify it and bring it back to the right form that we want it to be. So I'm just going to give that in there a couple of minutes on a really low speed, just to really whip up and become lovely and silky. Don't take it fast because you will end up with big air pockets, and you don't want that. It's going to ruin when we decorate the cake. So lowest speed that you can, and just let that have a couple of minutes to go around, and I will be back to you. Okay, that has done everything that I want it to do. It looks so good, and we're now going to put it into a bowl, which we can then set aside for when we're going to decorate. So make sure it's all completely incorporated, and then we're just going to turn it out. Look at that. That's so silky and smooth, and it has that really rich chocolatey flavour to it with the ganache. So you've got the best of both worlds in there, and that's not going to set really solid, which sometimes that ganache can give you that tougher texture where it goes a bit harder because the chocolate in it just sets. So there we are. Let's put that to one side, clean down. Once your cakes have completely cooled, we'll turn those out and we will begin to decorate this. So I'll see you in a bit. Right, so it's time to decorate. So I have put one of my cakes already on my board, put a little bit of our buttercream mixture on the bottom just to secure it, and turned it upside down because I do like to work with the flattest part. So now going to spread some of this buttercream all across the top. A good layer. There's no scrimping on this. Obviously trying to get it as level as you possibly can. Good. And again, I always like to turn my cakes over. So there we are. And the same again. Go. Now we're to put the top on. Oh, there we go. Oh, a piece fell off. Push it back in. Oh, I'm not quite on. There we go. Now I am. There we go. That all marries up the way I want it to. And take that off. And just pop it across the top. And then we're just going to smooth it around the sides. And then we'll be done. Sometimes it's just easier to keep these things really simple. So just take what you've got on there and just smooth it around the edges. Good. We will make sure that it's all tidy when we're finished. Right into that bottom part. Drag it round. This. Like I'm buttering bread. So I'm just going like backwards and forwards. Fill in any bits that you can straight away see aren't right. I don't want a completely clean finish. I'm going to put a little design on the side, but it has to match up. So, okay. Right, now I do have one of these bench scrapers here, cake scraper, so I really lightly want to touch this. I don't want to take too much off. Making sure you just keep it straight all the time. There we go. Forcing all that buttercream to the top. There we are. And then the bits that are left over, have a look around, and where it's not quite lifting up to the top, like this section here. So I'm just going to put that across the top part there. And there, just to make sure that it is all meeting nicely. And I'm going to go around again, really gently again, as I said, but making sure that this scraper is completely straight. It's absolutely lovely around the outsides there. And then just bring it out to the sides. There we go. And then the final go round with this. Again, really lightly. We don't want to scrape back too much on the sides and reveal all our sponge underneath. There we go. And then make sure that this is clean, and then just move the table with it and push all of that in. And now I'm just going to take the palette knife and we're just going to bring it right round into the middle to create a swirl all the way around the top there. And then around the outside you could leave it, or you could take your knife and you could just push in and then bring it up around the sides. Keep bringing it up as you come around. There we go. And then I'm going to get some chocolate shavings, and I'm going to put some chocolate shavings all over the top. I'm going to grate a bit of chocolate, and then that will be finished. So give me 1 second to get my chocolate shavings and I'll be straight back. Okay, so I got myself some dark chocolate. You can use whatever chocolate you like, and a grater. So then just grate your chocolate. That's all you need to do. So you don't want to need to watch me do this. So I'll grate this, and then as soon as it's done, we'll fill the top of the cake. Okay, so now we're just going to sprinkle some of this chocolate across the top of the cake. There we go. Neat edges there. It doesn't take a lot of chocolate to do this. Okay. And there we have it. There is our chocolate cake with a kind of chocolate fudge twist. And so I hope you enjoy this. It's a really, really silky, light, I said earlier, a tough buttercream, a tough ganache, which made no sense. I meant heavy, not tough, so I do realise I said that. It made no sense at all. So now we've got a really, really silky, smooth, light chocolate cake with an extremely moist sponge on the inside. So have a go, see what you think. Take care, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.